Welcome to Cafe Racer Garage. I am Dan, and today we are continuing the process of rebuilding the Honda CB750 engine. We have actually found some damage inside the engine which I was not expecting. I'll show you that in a minute, but we also in this episode have a special guest to teach us some techniques on how to measure specific parts of your engine in case you need to order parts. So let's get into it. I want to get these guys off and also the ones on the other side that I made just to see if any of the media has gotten inside there. I'm pretty confident nothing did. But what I found that was interesting, which I'll show you now, so you can see the exhaust and the inlet valves here, and the spark plug sits right in the center. And what shouldn't be there is this little guy here. I don't know what it is. It's like a little bit of aluminium or something, and it's done a hell of a damage on both sides. You can see all that marks on that. It's not on the other ones, it's just this one. And I've had a look at the top of the pistons. I haven't had a real good close look because it's upside down at the moment, but I'll have a look at those pistons. I don't know if there's any damage to the piston, but there's definitely on this aluminium, it's had a hell of a hard time. Before we get into any of that, let's get these covers off so I can see if any of the blast media has gone inside at all. I don't think it has, but we'll soon find out. Nothing, completely dry. Love it. So no media has worked its way in, which is what I thought, but not that it really matters anyway, because I may actually end up vapor blasting this again, cleaning it right up, all inside here and stuff, but I'll see how we go. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. I need to get some accurate measurements to order some parts. What I've done is I've ordered some stuff and it's just been delivered. I'll show you what I got. So for my good friends Heron Forbes Machinery House, I ended up grabbing myself a telescopic gauge set, and to go with that I ended up getting the micrometer set as well. I need to get this to measure the inside of the bore here. Just something I forgot to mention was you can get a more specific tool for measuring these bores called a bore micrometer if you're not familiar with it. You will get to see one a little bit later in the video on how to use it, so stay tuned for that. The tools that I have are more specific to doing machining, and I'll be doing a little bit more machining, so I purchased them and they can also do the same job. To measure the inside of the bore here, to try and figure out what size piston rings I need. I honestly don't even know if I need to replace them. This will probably tell me, but I'm going to replace them anyway. I think it's just the smarter choice. It'll give me a lot more compression and I'll be happier. So one of the concerns that I have is putting this engine back together and then down the track having a few problems. And to avoid any of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take down a few of my engine parts as well as the new tools that I have and get a bit of a crash course from my good friend Derek down at Power Republic. He has a go-kart shop. He pulls apart go-kart engines and rebuilds them all the time, so he's quite familiar with how all this stuff goes. More than I am, so let's go and get a bit of a crash course. Just as I was about to leave, I had a delivery, and you wouldn't believe what it is. It's actually the parts that I ordered for this guy here. So what I ended up getting was the cam chain tensioner, which is this guy here, and it is pretty dodgy from what I can see, and a new chain I got just for argument's sake. Probably didn't need to replace it, but it's a part. I'm gonna do it. It doesn't cost much more. Well, that's my current speed at the moment, and I'm on the highway. I don't know what's going on, but traffic is hardly moving, and I've been here for like 20 minutes doing this. Hopefully I get there before he closes the door.
709. Hey, Dan man, what's up? Welcome to the House of Power. So this is a bore mic, and it's basically a magnifying glass for measuring, and you can change your extensions, like I said. So you can use it for big bores, really small bores, well, up to about, I think it's the smallest this one goes is about 50 millimeters, but these come in all different sizes as well. And then this one will do, say, a 2 to a 4-inch bore, because you can just keep adding extensions onto there, but the fundamentals are the same. It's basically a 3-pointer. You got these 2 points on one side, and that point over on the other side of the bore. That's for your rigidity, so you can't sort of put the bore gauge in on the drink, you know, and get a parallax arrow or whatever it's called. And then this little guy here, you can see if I press it with my thumb, that the dial gauge starts to move at the top. And each one of those lines is on this one it's imperial, so that's 5/10,000ths of an inch. So pretty small, like geez, what's that in metric? It'll be about, call it 1/100th of a millimeter for easy mathematics. Remembering that this is on a screw, so you can adjust it in and out. So if it was too far in, exaggerated, like this, when I push it down into the bore, I'm not getting any reading on my dial gauge. I got 0 reading. Okay, because that's this little guy is not even touching the wall. This is the bit that does the measuring. These are for stability and the other guy is there as the, I guess, the reference. Well, I don't even know what that exact thing is called, but for now it's going to give us a relative measurement. So what we're going to do is, to get this to the right bore size, I'm just going to screw that out ever so slowly. And then this is just a locking screw. And then I'm just going to test to see if I've got any sort of bore measurement at all. And I do, so that is pretty close. So you can see that the needle is now moving on the dial gauge. Cool?
Yeah, right.
And this here is just on it's a bezel. So you just rotate it around till it says 0. You can use it for direct measurement if you set it up with the micrometer, but I always just zero it out on the bore and then measure the bore gauge with the micrometer separately, and that tells me what the bore size is. It's pretty simple, really. So now we were doing a test comparison between the telescopic gauge and a ball mic, and we're going to sort of back to back them against how our feeling, because this one is very much a feeling based. It takes years of practice realistically to be consistent, and even then I still don't think 100% it's as accurate as something like this or a 3-pointed micrometer. So this one here is zeroed out, right? I've zeroed that out as best I can. And it's good for also too, you can go down your bore and you can measure for taper, or you can turn it 90 degrees and you can measure for concentricity, righto? So it's far more accurate and better at telling you a picture of what your bore is doing rather than just using your telescopic gauge. Because like I said, this one here is basically all by feel, but this is kind of giving you a lot more graphic representation using the dial. So if you remember before, we were using this telescopic, my friend Dan, and we did the old tink, 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 tink analogy, where we're rocking it ever so slowly down the bore. And what I've done is I've pushed this on to the bore edge here, or the face, and then I've got a little bit of light pressure with this finger on the top, and then with my thumb, and I've got a good base. That's another thing, is you've got to get stability while you're doing measuring. You're not going to do it like this, you know, you're just too fragile. You'd be rocking all over the place, and these little muscles they don't have a lot of power, they've got a lot of dexterity. So to get your power back, you get a good base, you rest against the bench, put your telescopic bore gauge in. So I'll hold my thumb with the pressure this way against this face, and then I'm pulling back on the telescopic gauge using my finger, and then you can just rock the telescopic side to side, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Actually, I just got to reset it, went too far. So yeah, a little bit of pressure, left, right, and you just sort of halve the error every time. Then once you've got it perfect, or what you feel is perfect in the bore, you can just pull the telescopic gauge through at its tightest point, and then that's actually memorized the size of this bore, and we can just use the micrometer now to check it. Same thing, it's all by feeling. So you've just got to rock the telescopic gauge through these two anvils of the micrometer, and I'm turning this guy at the same time. Just a few microns, less than 1/100 of a millimeter. You should be able to measure what you got on your telescopic gauge. So I'm pretty happy there.
And it's a pretty tight feel, like you've got to sort of drag through, haven't you?
Almost the same drag as what you would have felt in the bore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's 61, 2, so that makes, 65, 66, 67 plus 4 100th lines, and it's nearly at the 5th 100th line, so that would equal 67,047 millimeters. As you can see here, we just ran out of cards, so I'm on my phone right now. I apologize for the quality, but continue what we were doing before. So now that we've done our telescopic gauge reading,
yeah,
and we came up with 67,047 millimeters. So I want to double check what we would get using a ball mic, and so I'm just going to zero the gauge out like we said earlier, and then we pull it out of the bore, and now we're going to go over to our micrometer, and the same thing, we're just going to put the bore gauge down between the two anvils of the micrometer, and you can see there it's a tiny bit bigger than what we got with the telescopic gauge. Now to show you how much bigger that is, can you zoom in on that down?
Yeah, man.
So you just go left, right, up, down. Righto. So now on the micrometer, we're under the lock, and it was big, so we could just screw that down. You know, it was about 4 microns movement smaller, right? Because it was measuring big. That's 4 microns.
Nothing
is the
really.
difference between the two. So if we double check our handiwork here, they're a bit closer, but I'd say it's a little bit tiny bit more because we're still not quite on the 0 line there.
So now that you've done the measurement, it's important to do all 4,
Yeah,
or however
yeah.
many cylinders you have, just
Yeah.
to make sure, and also to measure from the top as well as the bottom, because there could be like the taper, like you said earlier.
Yeah, so the bores get tapered when they wear, and it's normally on the thrust phase. So like if the cylinders are going this direction, you'll get more wear on the front and rear of the cylinder than on the sides.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what you do is you put your bore gauge in like this, and then you measure at the top, it's still 0, and then you could go down, and that's still reading pretty close to 0.
Yeah.
And that's on the second bore. You can see I'm just rocking that through the apex in the cylinder, like the highest point. We can check our third bore. Now that's staying pretty close to 0 as well as I'm going up and down. And then we can check our fourth bore. And that's the beauty of using a bore mic, it's just so much faster, or a bore gauge, sorry.
Yeah, I get that.
It just gives you that visual. You can just rock it through and it shows you straight away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Whereas, you know, if you had to do that with the telescopic, you'd reset it every time. You go top, bottom, top. You've got like 32 different measurements to do.
Yeah, right.
Then you got to get your micrometer out. You know, like this is giving you a direct visual. You can get it done in literally minutes, whereas this could take you, I don't know, ages. And it may or may not be deadly accurate as you go lower, because you won't have that same feeling as you had at the top.
At the top, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I did actually buy one of these, but I'm just waiting for it to turn up.
yeah. You can get these relatively inexpensive on eBay and stuff. I think I bought them for maybe $300 or $400.
Yeah, right.
So if you're not going to do it all the time, just take your engine to an engine shop and get them to resize your bores. They do all the hard work, like they're going to have to machine it anyway. They can size the bores for the pistons and give it all back to you. And you know, the hard part, well, the time-consuming part is taking stuff apart, cleaning it, and then putting it back together. The machining is actually pretty quick, so it's cost-effective to pull the engines apart yourself at home, like you've done, and then bring it into an engine shop. They can size all the bores because you need specialty equipment and measuring tools and years of experience to get them right anyway. Like I would never do it at home myself if I didn't have like a workshop and I hadn't been practicing for ages. And then, you know, that's the bit you can't do. And the cleaning is, if you paid someone to do it, it costs a fortune because it takes the longest, the cleaning and the preparation. So
Yeah,
I think you're doing it the right way.
That's awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Really
Thanks, Dan,
appreciate
man.
it. That was awesome. That was a good little lesson. Hopefully you guys got something from that as well.
Yeah,
Catch you
boy.
later. So thanks to Derek from Power Republic, we now have the skills to be able to use those tools and get the measurements that we need from the bore to see if we just need to order piston rings or if we need to get the entire cylinder machined. Derek actually has a go-kart YouTube channel, building go-karts, maintenance, rebuilding engines, racing, all that kind of stuff. He has it on his YouTube channel. If you're into go-karts or if you've got a kid that's into go-karts, definitely go and check it out. It's a really good channel, quite professional. He does an amazing job at what he does. He's been doing it for a long time. He actually has my go-kart sitting in his storage at the moment. It's nicknamed Lowrider. Hopefully this winter we can get it back out again and do some work to it so we can take it out and have a bit of fun, and I'll take you guys along with the ride. So this engine has had quite low kilometers and these bores are perfect. I don't need to do anything to them. Maybe just put a hone through them and that's it. Look at this. That is 100% the sound that I'm hearing. If you can picture that encased and there's a little bit of oil and stuff around there and it's making that noise just constantly, that is a guarantee, that noise that I'm hearing. So this is the brand new one and it comes pretty much compressed with the springs that's compressed at the moment. And there's a little wire that's sitting here that you take out. So this little wire here comes out. It's just sitting in there at the moment, and you can see the little spline marks going across there like that. So as soon as I put pressure on this, take that little wire out, it'll just let that spring out. And that just stays down. It won't go back up again. I can't push it back up again with my hand. It just stays down like that, and it pushes hard up against the chain that runs through here. And that wear plate, or sorry, the wear part actually sits hard up against that chain, and you're good to go. What's happening with mine on the actual inside the engine at the moment has pretty much, it's just stuck in that position, and this has moved down, so it's just flapping around like this, which is causing that noise, and I don't know why it's broken. So we're gonna replace it with a brand new one. So this part that I'm removing now is the shaft assembly for the alternator. It's always really good practice to be putting your nuts and bolts back when they originally came from, just so you don't have to hunt for them later. And this guy here is the starter clutch and collar. I haven't managed to find any abrasive media inside this engine at all, but there's a little pocket here, as you can see, where some has gotten trapped just in there. So we'll hit that with the vacuum cleaner and make sure we get rid of it before we move this thing around. There's plenty of ways to make sure that these pistons go back in the order that it came out. I'm just going to do a tiny little mark on the top of the piston and also the side of the block. It'll be so small that once it's painted, you won't even see it there. So I'm currently on my way over to go and see a guy named Ben who has a business called Precise Engine Rebuilders, and he must be pretty damn good at what he does because he's been recommended to me by 2 different people. He's going to be looking at the head for me to see if I need to rebuild it or whether it's fine as is, and if he can do it cheap enough, then I think I'll just get him to do it, and therefore I can get this bike finished a lot sooner and get to actually ride it. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm not actually just focused on that. I really want to enjoy the process of building it, but I've got so many more bikes waiting for me to build. I need to sort of outsource a few things to get things done a bit faster. So after speaking with Ben, he said that little bit of metal that's done the damage inside that cylinder could have potentially been off the spark plug, which makes sort of sense. It's about the same size. So he said it's done the damage. It could have potentially done damage to one of the valves as well, the actual seat of the valve. So he said, leave it with me, I'll freshen it up and you'll get it back. It'll all be brand new, which is exactly what I want. That way I can just bolt it on. No, everything's perfect. No bends in the valves, no gaps in the valves, and everything's going to run pristine, which I'm so looking forward to. So it's in his capable hands at the moment. So hopefully we'll get that back soon when the actual piston rings arrive, because I've ordered those as well. We can get this thing back together. So when the next engine build video is ready, I'll leave it right here. But if you haven't seen how I made a wireless taillight in this seat, as well as my Cafe Racer seat for this same bike, it's a really cool idea. It took me a while to come up with, but it works flawlessly, and I think you'll really like it. So go and check that one out. I'll leave it up here for you.